Kevin had always had a thing for Elizabeth, but she didn't even know that he existed. So he made it his mission to get closer to her and ask her to be his girlfriend. Elizabeth worked at a shoe store in the mall, so Kevin decided to get a job right next to her at the ice cream shop in order to get her attention. Kevin applied, got the job, and started his first day. But little did Kevin know that this day would change his life forever. After Kevin finished a long and difficult shift, he was walking out hoping to get a chance to talk to Elizabeth as she left the mall. As he reached for the door handle, he heard a voice of his boss. "Kevin," she said, "what are you doing? You know you're not supposed to leave until everything has been cleaned." Kevin said, "I have cleaned everything just as you asked me. In fact, all the ice cream scoopers are ready for tomorrow." "But Kevin," she said, "what's this on the ground?" Kevin's eyes were met with the floor covered in gum. Whenever customers went to try the ice cream, they ended up throwing the gum on the floor. Right as all this was happening, Kevin looked to his right and saw Elizabeth staring at him. He thought, if I scrape this gum off the floor, I'm never going to be able to ask Elizabeth to be my girlfriend. Kevin looked at his boss and said, "You hired me to be a scooper, not a scraper. I'm not going to do it." Kevin's boss looked at him and said, "You're fired." Kevin's whole life changed in that moment. How could this boss have so much control over his life? He decided he would never work for someone else ever again. And this was the start of Kevin O'Leary's entrepreneurship journey. Kevin would go on to start multiple companies and would eventually sell them for over $400 million. Today, we're gonna go through his life and find out exactly what he did to become successful. Let's get started. In order for us to really understand Mr. Wonderful, we gotta get inside the lab, Science Winning Lab. Okay. Now let's walk through Mr. Wonderful's occupation. His first real business was a production company that he started during college. In this production company, he would do one-off events. In his next venture, he learned how to sell, which is a common thread that you'll see a lot with billionaires. He was working at a cat food manufacturing company and had a big presentation to do. Now in this presentation, he's obviously trying to persuade people to invest more money into the current business. And what do they have him do? They looked into his eyes and said, "Is that cat food actually good?" And to that, picked up some cat food. Said, "Of course it is." And he made the sale. Oh, it has like a seafood aftertaste, but it's not seafood. I hope there's no seafood in there. If anyone's eaten crab, it's like you take all the shells. If you were to like turn them into powder and then bake a cake out of them, it would taste like that. Not expecting that to be that bad. So after this presentation, after eating that, he had a moment, just kind of like I did. He said, "I know how to sell, but I want to sell things that I want to sell, not what other people want me to sell." So that was kind of a moment in his life where he decided to pivot. Now at this stage of Mr. Wonderful's life, he was just bought out by his partner for $25,000. So had a chunk of change and was kind of trying to find the next thing to do. One of his friends that he knew was a developer, and together they teamed up and they made SoftKey. SoftKey had their hand in education companies. If you've ever played those old video games or old computer games that were educational, Kevin O'Leary's hand was in that mix. Now with SoftKey, Mr. Wonderful made a really good chunk of change. He got in a licensing agreement, so for every game that the company sold, he would get a percentage of the profit. And there were hundreds of thousands of games sold. Now eventually he went public, and at that moment he knew he was rich. And if you're kind of forgetting what those games look like, here's an example.
You found the right amount.
Now again, the reason we're doing this, the reason I just ate cat food, the reason I got this coat on, is we're trying to figure out, how did Mr. Wonderful win? What are the strategies that we could apply to our lives that will make us successful? Let's figure that out. For me to really understand how Kevin O'Leary became successful, I need to hit the streets. But for real, this video is crazy. Please don't try this. Now growing up, Kevin O'Leary lived in this house, except this isn't the house. In fact, it doesn't look anything like this, but he lived in a house.
Wow.
Let's keep going. Okay, maybe that wasn't productive to go to a Kevin O'Leary lookalike house, but now I'm behind and I need to make some serious headway. So I decided to go to school and learn some more. Now, what are 3 takeaways from Kevin O'Leary's life? Well, first and foremost is to respect yourself. I don't really know where we are right now. Okay, it's kind of weird. Oh my gosh. That's crazy. Well, respect yourself. When he got a job, he decided being an employee wasn't right for him. If he didn't respect that decision that he felt in his heart while biking home from that ice cream job that he got fired from, then odds are he wouldn't be where he is today. It's important to respect your personal boundaries when it comes to business and trust that gut instinct. The next thing is learn how to sell. Although Kevin O'Leary didn't like selling cat food, he did it in order to learn the mechanics of selling. Definitely set him up for success in the education company that he started later. And finally, Kevin O'Leary, as we all know, has a love for the truth. He's honest even when it counts, even when it hurts. And if he had a quote, I'm sure he'd say, over love, over money, over fame, give me truth. Well, maybe not for money for Kevin, but pretty close. Amen. Facts. Big facts over here. So now we know exactly what Kevin O'Leary did in his childhood that made him successful. But what is he doing nowadays that's helping him achieve his goals? Well, let's look at Shark Tank. So as you know, we can't talk about Kevin O'Leary without talking about Shark Tank or Dragon's Den, depending if you're an OG and came from the UK. But that's for another story. Now, Kevin looks for 3 different things when finding the perfect pitch. Now, the first thing that he looks for is the person knows their numbers dead straight. They are able to articulate from a financial and statistical standpoint where the business is at. They could come in with crazy enthusiasm, have the best business idea, but if they don't know their numbers, you're screwed. Mr. Wonderful is not going to invest. The second thing is they can articulate their idea within 90 seconds. If the idea is too ethereal and they're all over the place, then Mr. Wonderful is not going to invest. And thirdly, they have to convince the sharks, and especially Kevin, that they're the right person for the job. You know, why should they be running the business versus Joe Blow down the street or someone that they could just hire? Speaking of hiring, Indeed is, I'm just kidding. There's no brand deal for this yet, but if you want to support the channel, consider subscribing. We would love to have you around. And we're trying to get as many subscribers as Richard Branson, as you know, if you've seen the cover photo. So smash that subscribe button, drop a comment, and let's keep going. But lastly, the thing that Kevin loves is the truth.
Listen, Edwin, if you actually started to take any market share from the established sock makers, they could crush you like the vampire cockroach you are.
Yikes. Maybe he could have said that another way, but you know what I mean. Wow. Look at that view. And we're standing here at Kevin's lake house. And you know, one thing I love about Kevin is you never really get away from who you are. Kevin was always kind of this artist in college. In fact, his dad really pushed him to go the business route when he wanted to be more of a musician.
My hope for Kevin was, of course, happiness. But we differed on the way which this happiness can be achieved, because he could have been quite happy playing music and taking pictures and doing virtually nothing, but I would not have been happy.
He's always had that within him. You know, and today that manifests itself in his guitar, as well as the questionable fashion choices of the pants that he likes to wear. Because there's really no rules in fashion, so there you go. One thing I love about this lake house is it's very photogenic, as you can see. In fact, Kevin took the picture of one of his books here, The Cold Hard Truth on Family, Kids, and Money. Now, I want to take a moment to walk through this book because he has some very interesting gold nuggets for us. And as you can tell, Kevin is no stranger to love.
L'amore, whoa, 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 whoa. Listen, I want to congratulate you on your wedding here. June 13th, the magic day. Ashley booked me for this, and I'm very proud to be part of love. That's what it's all about.
Even has Cameo, which I could not afford for this one. Oh, great heavens! But if you want to subscribe so one day we can get Cameo, consider it. Now, my favorite thing about this book is Kevin talks about the red flags that someone could find when trying to find a potential spouse. I thought these were really interesting, so I'm going to keep them in here. The first red flag, and probably the most obvious, is if your partner has filed for bankruptcy or declared it.
I declare bankruptcy!
If they're not paying off the principal of their loans down, then that's to Mr. O'Leary. Mr. Wonderful is not going to invest. Though. The second red flag is if the partner, this is kind of crazy, guys, has dormant health issues. He says to take a 23andMe genetic test to find out if they have any issues. In his defense, he's not saying don't marry them. He's saying you should be aware of that and probably get better insurance because of it. Now, the final red flag is pretty intense. I don't even know if I want to say this. Essentially, you look at your partner's family. Are they broke? You know, are you gonna have to take care of them when they're older? A, that's pretty savage, but B, I mean, that's like real talk. That's the cold hard truth, you know what I mean? And those were some of my favorite things from Kevin O'Leary's book. He also has another one that's more about investment advice, and a really good point that he makes is looking at the past 90 days of your spending. So within the past 90 days with my finances, am I going this way or am I going that way? Pretty simple. Because in your life, you're either increasing or decreasing. That's a quote from my Russian math teacher. Hope you guys enjoyed the view. Check out some more videos. Check out this one. Pretty sick, not gonna lie. Love you guys. I'll see you in the